Depending on the developer, typically you pay anything from 10 to 20%, occasionally a bit less, but that would be outlined, by the broker for you in the full payment plan. So you'd get, you should get a good view of the full payment plan from start to finish. You can pay more if you want to. I mean, typically some developers would give a small discount if you paid like say 30 or 40 or 50% upfront. So that's something we can ask the developer for you and try and negotiate on your behalf. It would be quite a small discount typically, just because a lot of these developers are not in a position where they're desperate for money. You don't, however, we would advise obviously you be in a position that you know that you can make those payments. I think it's really, really important. People shouldn't be buying a property and paying the first 10% with no clue where the rest of the money's coming from. Obviously, you don't physically need it in your bank. However, you should have a really good idea on where those payments are coming from, so that we wouldn't have any awkward situation. I mean, you can resell a property partway through the payment plan, even as early as 10% if the next buyer is prepared to pay the advance payment that's required in order to do the transfer. But we wouldn't advise that, so that would be really last resort. Typically, there could be anything up to like 10 installments, although some developers break them down even smaller. So you might occasionally see a payment plan with like 1% on a monthly basis, for example. But typically, installments would usually be a 10% every 3 or 4 months during the construction process. You could pay in advance if you wanted to. However, you might find that you're paying, you're only getting a small discount, so it probably wouldn't be worth it really. You don't, there's usually a payment on handover. Very occasionally there are some post-handover payment plans that we can come to in a minute, but typically a payment on handover could be anything from 10 or 20% all the way up to 60 or 70%. So some of the better payment plans we've seen in recent years have had obviously more on completion, which gives you a bit more potential for leverage if you were going to resell it prior to the completion. But the payment plans do range a lot. So again, that's really important based on your ability to be able to make those payments, but also your investment outlook for the purchase as well. Typically, payments are linked to building milestones, although some of the first couple of payments, so the first couple of payments don't necessarily need to be linked to milestones. So typically, once you've reached 30 or 40% payments, then any future instalments should be linked to construction milestones. There's a fantastic app called Dubai Rest, which is by Dubai Land Department, and then on there you'll find there's a system called Mashrui, which is about project status, and then you can regular updates. So that's an independent third-party RERA-approved surveyor who's been to the site and updated all those details. So that's really useful actually as an investor, because you can save them. So I've got a few saved that I look at occasionally, and it can really help you understand where the project is and if the developer can in fact ask for that next milestone payment that's as per the payment terms. You can typically mortgage up to 50%. There is a cap by the central bank, so to stop any potential bubble occurring, there's a 50% mortgage cap, which means that you can finance 50%. Now, typically with a lot of payment plans, that 50% might have been due on completion, which means that you would just wait until handover and arrange the finance. Once there's a building completion certificate and handover notification, then you could technically, if you're a resident, finance up to 80%. So there's different options there, and obviously we can put you in touch with a mortgage broker to understand more details about that. If you've got money overseas, obviously you do need to factor in exchange rates and currency fluctuations. So over the period of say 3 or 4 years that you buy an off-plan property, the currency could make a big difference. And obviously it could swing in your favor, but at the same time it could go against you. So it's really worth understanding, that and just being a bit careful. You can always pre-book currency trades with our currency partners, who we use a GC, and they're very, very good, and you can even do advanced bookings up to 12 months before with a deposit. So that's also something worth considering.